In December 1872, a British merchant ship sailed through the cold, desolate waters of the North Atlantic Ocean. The captain peered through his spyglass and spotted a vessel drifting erratically in the distance. Its massive sails were torn and flapping violently as they pulled closer. He recognized the ship immediately. It was the Mary Celeste, but there was absolutely no one at the steering wheel. Fearing the worst, a small boarding party rowed across the freezing waves, climbed aboard the silent vessel, and drew their weapons. They expected to find a scene of horrific violence, a pirate attack, or bloody mutiny. Instead, they found absolute, terrifying silence. The Mary Celeste was a ghost ship. The captain, his wife, his 2-year-old daughter, and 7 crewmen had completely vanished into thin air. To understand the sheer impossibility of this event, we have to look at the chilling evidence the boarding party discovered below deck. First, the ship was completely seaworthy. There was a little water in the hull, but nothing a functional pump couldn't handle easily. Second, they did not run out of supplies. The ship was fully stocked with a massive 6-month supply of fresh food and water. Third, there was no sign of a pirate attack. The crew's expensive personal belongings and the valuable cargo were completely untouched. Inside the captain's quarters, a child's toys were neatly put away. It looked as if everyone vanished in the blink of an eye. But the boarding party did find several deeply disturbing anomalies. In the captain's cabin, the ship's navigation compass and sextant were entirely missing. On the main deck, the mystery grew darker. The heavy ropes securing the ship's only lifeboat had been violently severed with a knife. The evidence painted a terrifying picture. The crew intentionally lowered the tiny lifeboat and desperately abandoned a perfectly safe, massive floating ship. Captain Benjamin Briggs was a legendary seaman. He knew that abandoning his ship for a tiny rowboat in the open ocean was absolute suicide. To figure out why the crew abandoned ship, investigators looked at the captain's logbook. The final entry was written 10 days before the discovery. The logbook was completely normal. There was no mention of a terrifying storm, sickness, or a mutiny. The weather was completely calm and clear. Captain Morehouse towed the ghost ship to Gibraltar, where a massive Admiralty Court investigation was immediately launched by the highly suspicious British government under maritime law. If you bring an abandoned ship to port, you receive a massive cash reward. The financial motive for murder was high. The Attorney General of Gibraltar launched a furious criminal investigation. He accused Captain Morehouse of slaughtering the Mary Celeste crew for the money. To prove this terrifying murder theory, the prosecutor presented chilling new evidence. Investigators found a rusted sword hidden underneath Captain Briggs's bed. The heavy steel blade was covered in dark red stains. They also found identical red smears slashed across the wooden railings on the deck. The prosecutor argued this was definitive proof of a bloody mutiny or a pirate massacre. The courtroom audience was absolutely horrified by the accusations, but the murder theory completely collapsed weeks later. When forensic scientists finally tested the red stains in a secure chemistry laboratory, it wasn't human blood at all. It was just a harmless mixture of common sea rust and spilled wine from the cargo. Without a single shred of evidence for murder, the court cleared Captain Morehouse, but the mystery of the empty ship remained completely unsolved. If there was no mutiny and no violence, investigators had to look at the cargo, 1,700 barrels of raw industrial alcohol. When the ship was first discovered, investigators noted a terrifying detail. 9 of the heavy oak barrels were found completely empty. Unlike the others, these 9 barrels were made of porous red oak. The highly flammable alcohol had slowly leaked into the ship's belly. In the sweltering heat of the Atlantic Ocean, the leaked alcohol evaporated, filling the dark cargo hold with a highly explosive, invisible vapor. If a single spark ignited those fumes, the entire wooden ship would instantly blow to pieces. The crew was living on a bomb. Modern chemists believe a sudden shift in air pressure caused these concentrated fumes to violently ignite without actually catching the ship on fire. This specific chemical reaction creates a massive pressure wave. It blows open the hatches and makes a terrifying boom, but leaves no burn marks. Believing his ship was actively exploding and about to sink, Captain Briggs panicked. He gave the absolute worst order of his entire life. He ordered his family and crew into the tiny lifeboat. They tied a heavy rope to the Mary Celeste, planning to trail behind. They tied the lifeboat to the ship using a thick rope. If the ship didn't explode, they could simply climb back aboard safely. But the captain made a fatal mistake. In the frantic panic to escape, the crew forgot to drop the ship's massive heavy sails. Suddenly, the weather changed. A violent gust of wind caught the giant sails, aggressively launching the heavy ship forward into the dark ocean. The massive ship lurched forward with terrifying speed. The thick rope connecting them to the lifeboat instantly pulled and then, in the freezing darkness of the open Atlantic, the thick rope violently snapped under the thousands of pounds of unnatural pressure. The Mary Celeste sailed away on its own, completely undamaged. The crew could do absolutely nothing but watch their only chance of survival disappear. 10 terrified people, including a 2-year-old child, were left adrift in a tiny rowboat in the middle of the most dangerous ocean on Earth. They had no food, no fresh water, and no compass. They were hundreds of miles away from the nearest piece of dry land. What happened next is entirely up to the cruel imagination of the sea. Did they slowly starve to death under the baking sun? Or did a massive, violent winter storm capsize their tiny wooden boat, swallowing them alive into the freezing depths of the black water? Not a single piece of the lifeboat, nor a single body, was ever recovered by search parties. The ocean erased them completely. As for the Mary Celeste itself, the ghost ship was sold to new owners, but the vessel was officially considered cursed by every sailor. The ship traded hands violently for 12 years. Several of its new captains died tragically under mysterious circumstances, fueling the legend of the curse. In 1885, its final captain intentionally crashed the cursed ship into a coral reef near Haiti in a desperate, illegal insurance scam. The massive wooden hull violently shattered against the jagged rocks, but stubbornly, the cursed ship refused to sink completely beneath the blue waves. The fraud was discovered, the plan failed, and the captain died in poverty shortly after. The Mary Celeste was abandoned to the elements. For years, the rotting wooden ribs of the ship sat baking under the tropical sun, slowly dissolving into the shallow, crystal-clear Korean waters. Today, nothing remains of the ghost ship. Its timber has completely dissolved into the ocean, taking the final, terrifying truth down with it. The fate of Captain Briggs, his wife, his baby daughter, and his crew will forever be one of history's greatest unsolved maritime mysteries. Why would intelligent people abandon absolute safety for certain death? It is a chilling question that completely defies all human logic and reason. The ocean is a massive, unforgiving void that swallows secrets forever. But sometimes these terrifying, unexplainable disappearances happen right on dry land. In 1587, over 100 English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island to build the very first permanent colony in the New World. They built houses, planted crops, and established a community. But when a supply ship returned 3 years later, the entire city was abandoned. Every single man, woman, and child had vanished. There were no bodies, no graves, and absolutely no signs of a violent native attack. The houses were dismantled. The only clue left behind in the silent forest was a single terrifying word violently carved into a wooden post. Click the video on your screen to uncover the horrifying true story of the lost colony of Roanoke. And stay curious.